This is a $10 racket with good strings. And this is a $200 racket with bad strings.
In this video, we're going to be putting them through a series of tests and scoring them as we go to find out which is going to help your game more, good strings or a good racket. We're going to start with the power test.
Okay, first up we have the $10 racket, and we've changed the original factory strings to Victor VBS 66 Nano at £30, which is the string and tension I've been using for the last 5 years. And I was actually quite impressed I managed to string this without it breaking. Power test number 1 is the smash test. Let's see if I can knock myself down. I think the sound was reasonably loud, but it was very hard to create the power. And also, I've got quite a sore arm.
Power test number 2 is the distance test. I'm going to hit 10 clears as hard as I can and see how much power I can create with this racket. And I'm hitting 10 because I'm not a robot, so I won't be able to hit exactly the same every time, but this should give a good average. Not bad, but again, I think the racket was definitely a limiting factor in my power there.
Okay, let's see how this $10 racket with good strings compares to this $200 racket with bad strings. And in search of our bad strings to put in this $200 racket, we went to our sponsor Sakura Sports website, but they actually only sell pretty good string, so we headed to Amazon. To find some terrible strings, we sorted by the lowest price. 82p? Perfect. We then waited 2 weeks for it to arrive from China and then strung it at a very low tension of £15. Decent power, but I felt like I had no control, which doesn't bode well for the accuracy tests.
Wow, that was a lot more powerful. You can see from the other angle, they were landing way further back. Okay, so to decide if a good racket or good string is more important, we're going to score each racket combination out of a maximum of 10 points after each of the 3 series of tests. And we'll assume that a 10 out of 10 would be our favourite $200 racket, this is mine, with nice strings at high tension. So we're going to give the $10 racket with good string 4 points for power, and the $200 racket with bad string 7 points, as we literally just couldn't create any whip with that cheap racket.
But what about the control and feeling? Is hitting more controlled, accurate shots easier with good strings or a good racket? Let's move on to this in our next series of tests. Let's see how many out of 10 I can lift into this box. That was quite consistent, but they were all going a little bit left, and I think that's because the racket didn't quite create the whip that I wanted it to. Yes! Come on! Oh.
Our next accuracy test is to see how many net chords we can get out of 10.
Eight out of 10 with a $10 racket. Woo! Let's see how the bad strings compare. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Still went over, at least.
Wow, that was actually a lot more different than I was expecting. My technique was exactly the same, and that was just bouncing up so much more because of that loose tension. That was crazy. Good invention, Greg.
Our third accuracy test is assessing the quality of our serves. Now normally with our $200 rackets with good string, we'd expect to hit 10 out of 10 under this piece of string and into the box. So let's see how we compare. Not enough power. When you don't need to generate much power, this $10 racket with good strings is actually pretty accurate. So 8 out of 10 went in the box, however a few did go over the line, and in general the quality was nowhere near as good.
Okay, after doing all 3 accuracy tests, we're going to score the $10 racket with good strings 8 out of 10, and the $200 racket with bad strings a 3 out of 10. For accuracy and control, string is definitely king.
Now, before we go on to the speed tests, some of you might be thinking, how would a mid-range racket with mid-range strings compare to these?
Well, as we like to make things hard for ourselves and go into detail for you, we have an $80 racket strung with VBS 70, a good durable string at £24. And this is what we deem to be an average racket with average string strung at an average tension. So let's test the power and accuracy of this.
Once I'd adjusted to it after that first headshot, it was a lot better, this intermediate racket. Okay, average racket. Let's see if I can beat 4. I got 5 out of 10 in the box, so the average racket definitely beats the bad strings, and it also beats the bad racket. Still a bit bouncy with the lower tension. Not the best quality. Oh, another rope shot. Now, we weren't surprised that this racket was generally better than the other 2 rackets, as there's no really bad characteristics like the others have. And although we've said this racket is average for us, we would actually recommend most beginners and also some lower intermediate players go for a racket and string setup like this. And we've explained why this is the case on a video that we've done, so we'll link that up there and also at the end of the video.
Okay, let's continue on our quest to determine what's actually more important, the strings or the racket. Let's test our defensive speed. That actually hurt my wrist a little bit with that racket. Okay, that was interesting. The $10 racket was a lot slower in terms of its speed through the air, and I had to work a lot harder to generate any racket head speed and power. But then the $200 racket with bad strings felt a lot faster through the air. So we'll give that $10 racket 2 points and the $200 racket 6 points. Best length.
Best power.
So, after doing 6 different types of tests over the last few hours, we've concluded that if we were going to play a game only playing soft and controlled shots, we'd choose the good strings. But if we were going to play a tournament, we'd both choose the good racket. Well, actually, we choose the average racket with average strings, because as we said earlier, that had no real bad parts.
So if you want to get this racket, any others, and any string, then you can head to our amazing sponsors, Sakura Sport, and use our discount code BadmintonInsight at checkout. They offer good prices, a good service, and also all of the good items we've mentioned in this video. We'll include a link to everything in the description below. And if you now want to learn more about choosing the right racket for you and your game, then we'd recommend watching this video next. And lastly, if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop it a like, smash the subscribe button if you haven't already, and we'll hopefully see you on another video very soon.